A mysterious signal. The stars shined brightly in the vast darkness of space, stretching out in every direction. But for the men and women aboard the Earth Defense Fleet's command ship, the silence of the universe was something they had grown accustomed to. Earth, once thought to be insignificant by the Galactic Council, had spent years quietly preparing. Hidden in the depths of space, Earth's fleet was a secret, one the universe was not ready for. It was a quiet evening on the command ship, the hum of the engines a steady background to the officers' routine tasks. The crew of the Earth Defense Fleet had been monitoring space traffic, as they did every night, but tonight was different. A strange signal came through their communications equipment. At first, it was weak and distorted, but slowly it began to clear up. Lieutenant Sarah Yates was the first to notice. She sat at her station, scanning the readings on her screen when she saw a strange pattern flicker on the radar. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. She quickly typed in commands, trying to analyze the signal, but it didn't match any known frequency or code. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady, but there was a hint of confusion in it. The captain, Marcus Hayes, was already walking over to her station. "What is it, Lieutenant?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "This signal. It's coming from somewhere outside our usual patrol zones, and I've never seen anything like it before. It's too perfect," she said, unsure of how else to describe it. Captain Hayes studied the screen for a moment, his eyes narrowing. The signal was rhythmic and constant, like a heartbeat, but it didn't make sense. The Galactic Council had long believed Earth to be insignificant, a species with barely any technology to rival the rest of the galaxy. The idea of them receiving anything out of the ordinary was laughable. "Could be a glitch," he said, trying to brush it off. "But we'll keep an eye on it. Alert the rest of the fleet to monitor for anything else unusual." He turned to walk away but paused. "And Lieutenant, make sure to double-check that frequency again." As Hayes left the room, Lieutenant Yates's curiosity only grew. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She kept staring at the signal, her fingers tapping restlessly on the console. It was clear now that it wasn't a glitch. The signal had a purpose. For the next few hours, Yates worked tirelessly, cross-referencing the signal with every database she could find. But nothing matched. The frequency was alien. It wasn't a distress signal. It wasn't a request for help. It was something else. The rhythmic pattern seemed to be repeating, like it was waiting for something. Hours passed, and as the crew continued their regular duties, Yates kept watching the signal. There was no denying it now. It was not only real, but it was something that had been sent intentionally. But who could have sent it? Earth was alone, far from the centers of galactic power. The Galactic Council would have never noticed their little planet, tucked away at the edge of the galaxy. But then something unexpected happened. The signal began to grow stronger. It pulsed louder, clearer, and more urgent. Yates immediately called the captain again. "Captain, the signal. It's changing. It's increasing in strength. I don't think this is just a random transmission anymore," she said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and fear. Hayes returned to her station, his face set in a serious expression. He studied the signal for a moment. "It's not coming from any known location," he muttered, his voice low. "The source is outside our reach, but it's coming from somewhere deep in the galactic core." The galactic core was a place no one dared venture. It was home to dangerous black holes, unknown anomalies, and strange forces no one fully understood. No one had traveled that far into the galaxy for centuries. But now, here was Earth receiving a signal from somewhere within that mysterious zone. Yates's hands trembled as she continued her work, trying to make sense of the data. She couldn't fathom what could be happening. What was out there? And why were they trying to communicate with Earth? The captain's voice broke through her thoughts. "I need you to run a full diagnostic on all systems. No more interruptions. We're going to need to be ready in case something bigger is going on." As the captain walked away to give orders to the rest of the crew, Yates looked back at the signal. Something deep inside her told her this wasn't just a coincidence. Something was trying to reach them. But who? And why? Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council continued its work, completely unaware of what was unfolding on Earth's fleet. They had no reason to worry about Earth. To them, Earth was still a backwater planet with nothing of value to offer. But this mysterious signal would soon change everything. What was at the source of the signal? What did it mean for Earth? The fleet had no answers yet, but the pieces were starting to fall into place. The Council's pride in their superiority over Earth would soon turn to fear, for no one at all, had anticipated the rise of the most unlikely threat. The fleet remained alert, waiting for the signal's next move. The countdown had begun. The mystery was just starting, and soon, Earth's secret would no longer stay hidden. The silent fleet awakens. The Earth Defense Fleet had always been a secret, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy. To most of the universe, Earth was still considered weak, its technology primitive compared to the advanced civilizations that surrounded them. But in the silence of deep space, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council, Earth had been quietly preparing for something no one expected. Lieutenant Sarah Yates sat at her console, still staring at the mysterious signal. It had been growing stronger with each passing hour, more urgent, more deliberate. She ran her hands through her hair, trying to focus. The signal wasn't just a distress call or a random transmission. It was something with purpose. She couldn't help but feel that whatever was sending it was waiting for them to respond. The question now was, what was Earth supposed to do? Captain Marcus Hayes stood by the observation window, his eyes fixed on the stars. They had been at this for days, analyzing the signal, cross-checking data, and testing the fleet's systems. But even though they had spent hours on these tasks, he felt no closer to understanding what they were up against. "Lieutenant," he said, his voice calm but filled with underlying tension. "We've run every diagnostic possible. The signal is coming from deep within the galactic core. We need to decide what our next step is." Yates turned to face him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "But Captain, this signal, it's not like anything we've encountered before. It feels different, and it's growing stronger. We can't ignore it." The captain nodded, his gaze now fixed on the control panel. "I know. We've been keeping this under wraps, but it's time. We can't stay hidden any longer." For years, Earth's fleet had been operating in secret. Hidden in remote corners of the galaxy, the fleet had been built and trained in silence. The ships, sleek and powerful, were a blend of ancient Earth technology and cutting-edge designs that no one outside of Earth's command had seen. They had been created with one purpose in mind: to defend humanity and make sure they were never again underestimated by the rest of the galaxy. But no one had known about them. Until now. "Captain," Yates spoke again, her voice tight. "The signal is coming from somewhere inside the core. That's where the most dangerous anomalies are located. If we go there—" "We go prepared," Hayes interrupted. "We've trained for this. The Galactic Council thinks we're weak, that we're nothing more than a speck in the vastness of space. But we've been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike." The crew was already making preparations. The fleet, once scattered and hidden, was now ready for action. Hundreds of ships, each one capable of incredible power, were now gathering in the dark reaches of space. The fleet was silent, its movements carefully coordinated to avoid detection. They would leave no trace of their passing, no sign of their presence, except for the legacy they would soon leave behind. For years, the Earth Defense Fleet had remained in the shadows. They had been constructed slowly, piece by piece, over decades. A fleet unlike any the galaxy had seen before. It was not the technology alone that made the Earth fleet a force to be reckoned with. It was the people who commanded it. The soldiers, the engineers, the scientists. They had all worked together with a singular purpose: to protect Earth from those who underestimated them. Their loyalty was unmatched. their determination unshakable. And now, as the signal grew louder, clearer, they were ready. Earth was about to make its presence known. Yates sat back at her station, typing in the final set of coordinates. "We're ready to move, Captain. The fleet's systems are online, and we're prepared to enter the core." Hayes nodded slowly, his mind racing. "All right, let's move. This is the moment we've been waiting for." The fleet began to shift into position, their engines igniting as they prepared for a journey into the heart of the unknown. The stars outside the window blurred into streaks of light as the ships accelerated, heading toward the core of the galaxy. It was a place few had ever dared venture, where the very fabric of space and time seemed to twist and warp. As they traveled deeper into the galactic core, the ships began to experience strange phenomena. Gravitational anomalies distorted their course, pulling them in different directions. Strange waves of energy passed through the ships, causing instruments to flicker and alarms to sound. But the fleet moved forward, unyielding. The crew had trained for this, and their resolve was stronger than the pull of the unknown. Meanwhile, in the command center of the Galactic Council, they remained unaware of the storm that was about to break upon them. The council was busy with routine matters, their leaders focused on the usual power struggles and petty politics that filled their days. They never imagined that Earth, a planet they had long dismissed, was on the move. They never suspected that their pride, the very thing that had kept them complacent for so long, was about to be shattered. The fleet's journey continued, each ship carefully following its course through the core. Strange shapes and shadows loomed in the distance, but they did not falter. Earth's fleet had been built for this moment, and as they neared the heart of the signal, something began to change. The signal, once a faint whisper, had now grown into a thunderous roar. The fleet was getting closer. The source was within reach. But as they closed in, a chilling thought crossed Yates's mind. If Earth had been hidden for so long, if they had been kept in the dark, then what other secrets lay ahead? It wasn't just a signal anymore. It was a warning, a call to arms. The fleet had awakened, and with it, Earth's hidden strength was about to rise. First contact. The silent expanse of space stretched endlessly before them, a cold void that seemed to mock their presence. Yet, as the Earth Defense Fleet pressed deeper into the galactic core, the atmosphere on board the command ship was anything but quiet. Tension crackled like static in the air. The crew knew they were approaching the source of the mysterious signal, but they had no idea what awaited them. Lieutenant Sarah Yates stood at her station, her eyes glued to the main screen. The signal was louder now, clearer than ever, and it was guiding them. She felt a mix of excitement and dread. The closer they got, the more real it all became. They were about to make contact with something, or someone, and this could be the moment that would change the fate of humanity forever. Captain Marcus Hayes paced back and forth in front of the command center, his hands clasped behind his back. His face was calm, but there was a sharpness in his eyes. The crew was waiting for his command, and he could feel the weight of every decision bearing down on him. Every move, every strategy had to be perfect. One mistake could lead to the end of everything they had worked for. "We're almost there, Captain," Lieutenant Yates reported, her voice steady, but it was clear she was just as anxious as everyone else. "Prepare for communication," Hayes ordered, his voice low and firm. "But don't get careless. We don't know what we're dealing with." The fleet's ships, sleek and silent in their approach, formed a perfect formation around their command ship. They were a show of strength, every ship ready for battle if necessary. The black void of space seemed to close in around them as they moved, the galaxy's core an alien landscape filled with unimaginable danger. As they entered a dense asteroid field, the communications officer suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I'm receiving something. It's not like the signal we've been tracking. This is direct. It's aimed at us." Everyone in the room froze. The voice was unlike anything they had ever heard, a low hum that reverberated through the very walls of the ship. It wasn't mechanical, nor was it organic. It sounded ancient, powerful. "Open the channel," Hayes commanded, his hand gripping the edge of his console. "Let's hear what they have to say." The room fell into a tense silence. The crew could hear their own breathing, each second stretching longer than the last. And then the voice came through. "We have waited long for you, Earth." The words sent a chill down Yates's spine. She looked at the captain, but his expression remained unreadable. The voice didn't sound hostile, but neither did it offer comfort. It was neither friendly nor threatening. It simply was. Who are you?" Yates asked, speaking for the first time since the signal had begun. The response came almost immediately, the voice now clearer and louder, as though the entity on the other side was taking its time to speak. "We are the ones who watched, the ones who waited. And now, we seek to test the strength of your resolve." The words hung in the air like a weight, heavy and unyielding. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They were expecting a confrontation. But this was different. They had no idea what to make of this strange, distant being, or beings, that spoke in riddles. There was no immediate danger, but there was no sign of peace either. It was as though the entity was measuring them, probing Earth's fleet for some sign of weakness. "Test us." Captain Hayes's voice was steady, but underneath there was a flicker of something. Was it fear? That Yates hadn't noticed before. "What do you mean?" The entity seemed to pause for a long moment before responding, and in the silence that followed, it felt as though the very stars themselves were holding their breath. "We will show you your true place, your strength, your resolve. Your choice is simple: prove yourself worthy or be forgotten." There was a long pause, the eerie silence stretching on longer than felt comfortable. Then, without warning, a surge of energy flooded the fleet's communication systems, knocking out their monitors momentarily. The lights on the ship flickered, and the crew was thrown off balance as an unknown force seemed to disrupt their entire system. "We will see if you have the power to survive the test." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. The crew stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. "We need to move," Captain Hayes said, his voice unwavering. "Now." "Captain, we've lost contact," Yates said urgently, her fingers flying over the console. "The entire fleet's systems are down. The entire sector's readings are scrambled." That energy, it came from the source. Hayes took a deep breath, his expression now hard. "They've made their move. They want to test us, but we can't afford to fail." The fleet had already taken positions, and now, more than ever, Earth's soldiers knew they were facing an enemy they didn't understand. No one had predicted this moment. The Galactic Council had laughed at the idea of Earth being a serious contender in galactic affairs. But now, Earth was on the verge of an encounter with something far older, far more powerful than they had ever anticipated. What had begun as a signal was now a challenge. Earth had been invited to a test, one that could either elevate them to power or obliterate them completely. There was no turning back. In the heart of the galaxy, Earth's fleet stood at the edge of a precipice, ready to face whatever was coming. The voice that had spoken to them was gone, but its words still echoed in the minds of the crew. "Prove yourself worthy, or be forgotten." And as the ships moved forward, the crew felt the weight of those words bearing down on them. The time had come to face the unknown. Earth's strength revealed. The silence in the command center was thick, oppressive. The eerie voice that had contacted them from deep within the galactic core still echoed in the minds of every crew member. They had been warned, tested even, but no one knew exactly what was to come. The words were simple, but their meaning was far from clear. "Prove yourself worthy, or be forgotten." Captain Marcus Hayes stood by the massive viewport, his back to the crew, staring out into the void. The ships were arrayed in perfect formation, their engines humming steadily, but there was a palpable unease among the crew. It was as if every ship had a target on its back, and no one knew who or what had marked them. "Captain," Lieutenant Yates spoke softly, breaking the stillness. "We've analyzed every piece of data we have on the energy surge, but it doesn't make sense. The readings, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. The energy is not just a weapon, it's a signal, a challenge." Hayes turned to face her, his expression stern. "I know, Lieutenant, but the question isn't why they're doing this. It's how we're going to respond." The challenge was clear. Earth was being forced into a galactic test, one that could either see them rise to a new level of power or see them crushed under the weight of an ancient force that had waited eons to test humanity's resolve. As the fleet approached the source of the signal, the energy fields around them grew stronger. Every system on board the ships flickered with strange readings. The sensors couldn't make sense of the data. It felt like they were being pulled in by an unseen force. The crew had trained for years in the most extreme conditions, but nothing had prepared them for this. "Captain, the energy is concentrating around us," one of the officers called out, their voice filled with uncertainty. "It's like a gravity well, but the readings are impossible. We're being drawn into it." A low hum filled the air, as if the very fabric of space itself was vibrating in response to the impending encounter. The strange force seemed to be testing the limits of Earth's technology, as though it sought to see just how far their ships could be pushed. "We can't fight this," Lieutenant Yates said, her voice tight with worry. "If this continues, our engines will burn out. We're not equipped for whatever this is." "Then we'll make do with what we have," Hayes replied, his voice unwavering. "I didn't bring this fleet here to turn back. We're Earth's last line of defense. If we fail, humanity won't get another chance." As if in response to his words, the force around them intensified. The ships began to shake violently, and a low roar filled the hull as the fleet's engines fought against the pull. Systems began to fail one by one. Navigation systems, communication arrays, even their shields began to flicker and fade. But in the chaos, something unexpected happened. One of the Earth ships, an older model, started to glow with an energy the crew had never seen before. It was as though the ship itself had awakened, reacting to the strange force surrounding them. The ancient technology that Earth had kept hidden for so long was now coming into play. "Look at that ship," Yates shouted. "It's like it's absorbing the energy. It's feeding off it." Hayes's eyes widened. "That ship, it's not supposed to be operational. It was decommissioned years ago." But it wasn't just the one ship. As the energy continued to surge, the entire fleet began to respond in unexpected ways. The ships, each with unique designs and systems, started to glow with a strange, vibrant energy. It was as if the very heart of Earth's technology, the heart that had been hidden, dormant for so long, was now awakening. "The fleet's systems," one of the engineers gasped. "They're adapting. Our shields, our engines, they're enhancing themselves." The crew watched in awe as the Earth fleet, against all odds, began to harness the strange force. The ships were no longer struggling to maintain control. They were thriving. The once impossible energy fields that had been threatening their systems were now being absorbed and converted into power. Earth's fleet was becoming something more, something stronger, something alive. It was clear now, this wasn't just technology. This was the culmination of centuries of human ingenuity, born from an understanding of the universe that had been kept hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Earth's fleet wasn't just built to survive. It was built to adapt, to evolve, and to overcome. We've adapted," Yates whispered in disbelief, her eyes wide. "The fleet, it's using the energy. We're stronger than ever." Hayes nodded, a flicker of pride in his eyes. This is what they wanted to see. This is how we prove ourselves worthy. As the fleet continued to absorb the energy, the alien force around them seemed to grow more aggressive. A violent wave of energy crashed against the fleet, but now, instead of faltering, Earth's ships pushed back, their shields glowing with an intensity never before seen. The ancient force seemed to push harder, testing the fleet's resolve. But the fleet held firm. It was no longer just a test. It was a battle. The energy fields that had once been so alien and dangerous now bent to Earth's will. The fleet, once considered insignificant by the galactic powers, had turned the tide. The ships surged forward, as if powered by the very force that had tried to destroy them. The alien voice from earlier crackled through the communications once again, but this time it was not filled with menace. Instead, there was a note of respect, of awe. You have proven your strength, Earth. You have shown that your resolve is unbreakable. But this test is far from over. You have much to learn. As the voice faded, the fleet, now stronger than ever, prepared for the next challenge. Earth had passed the first test, but the unknown force still had much more in store. Captain Hayes stood tall, his eyes focused on the stars ahead. The fleet had awakened, but so had Earth's hidden power. They were no longer just a small, insignificant planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. And as they moved deeper into the unknown, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The turning point. The fleet had just barely recovered from the shockwave that had sent them reeling. The alien force they had encountered was far from finished, but something had shifted. Earth's fleet, which had once been underestimated by the galactic powers, had proven itself resilient. Now, as the ships sailed deeper into the unknown, the crew knew one thing for sure. They had crossed a threshold. The test had begun in earnest, and the stakes had never been higher. Captain Marcus Hayes stood in the command center, his gaze fixed on the view of the distant stars. The battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. The energy waves that had once been an overwhelming force now seemed to follow the fleet, as though they were being herded toward an unknown destination. Something more awaited them at the core of the galaxy, and the alien force was pushing them toward it. "Captain, we're detecting new energy readings," Lieutenant Yates said, breaking the silence that had settled over the room. Her fingers flew over her console, analyzing the data that was rapidly flowing in. "It's different from before. These aren't just gravitational anomalies. These are concentrated bursts of energy. It's almost as if something is watching us." Hayes turned to face her, his eyes narrowing. Watching, or waiting. Before Yates could respond, the entire ship shook violently. The sudden jolt sent the crew stumbling, but the ships held steady. The energy surrounding them had intensified, and the once predictable patterns had changed. The fleet's engines roared as they fought against the unnatural pull. "Report," Hayes barked, gripping the edge of his chair to steady himself. "We've been surrounded," the communications officer said, his voice trembling. "There's a massive surge of energy coming from all directions. It's like the entire space around us is alive, like something is closing in." The crew watched as the space around them began to warp and twist. The very fabric of the galaxy seemed to bend, as if the universe itself was reacting to the presence of the fleet. The once still stars now flickered erratically, and strange, almost ghostly lights appeared in the distance. They were unlike anything Earth's fleet had seen. Brilliant, radiant pulses that seemed to vibrate with unnatural energy. "Captain," Yates said, her voice low, "this isn't a natural phenomenon. This is intelligent energy. It's like the core itself is alive, and it's reacting to us." The alien force had not just been testing Earth's fleet, it had been guiding them, leading them to this exact point. The question was no longer whether Earth could survive. It was whether they could stand their ground against an entity that had existed for eons, a power that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Without warning, the alien voice, now a low hum, crackled through the fleet's communication system. This time, however, it was different. The voice was clearer, more distinct, and this time it spoke with a sense of authority, a commanding presence that sent a shiver down the spine of every crew member. "You have come far, Earth, but you are not yet ready. The test is not one of strength alone. It is of unity, of purpose. Show us your true resolve, and you will gain what you seek. Fail, and you will join the forgotten." The room fell silent. Every crew member knew that the true challenge had just begun. Earth had proven its resilience, its ingenuity, and its ability to adapt. But this was something else. The test had moved beyond physical strength or technology. It was now a test of humanity's will. Could they stand firm in the face of the unknown? Could they rise above their fear and doubts and prove that they belonged in the galaxy, that Earth had earned its place? "Captain, the energy levels. They're off the charts," Yates said, her voice trembling slightly. "We're being flooded with data. I don't know how much longer we can hold on." "Keep it together, Lieutenant," Hayes replied, his tone steady. He knew what was at stake now, and he had to remain calm for the crew. "We've made it this far. We're not turning back now." Just as he finished speaking, the entire fleet was thrown into chaos. The ships shuddered as waves of energy slammed into them, far more powerful than anything they had encountered before. Shields flared up, but they flickered, barely holding the assault at bay. The fleet's engines strained under the pressure as the alien force seemed to grow stronger, its presence all-encompassing. "Captain, we're losing control," one of the engineers shouted. "Our shields are at 30%. If we don't get out of this energy field soon, we'll be sitting ducks." "Divert all power to the shields," Hayes ordered. "We're not running. We're standing our ground." For a moment, it seemed as though Earth's fleet would be torn apart by the onslaught. The ships were pushed to their limits, their hulls groaning under the pressure. The crew worked feverishly, trying to stabilize their systems and keep the fleet together. But despite the mounting strain, there was something new in the air, a sense of unity that hadn't been there before. The ships were not just Earth's ships anymore. They were a symbol of humanity's collective strength, its determination to survive against all odds. The fleet, powered by the very energy that sought to break them, now began to fight back, its shields flaring brightly as the energy waves collided with them. Hayes watched as the ships around him held firm, refusing to yield. His eyes narrowed with determination. They had come this far. There was no turning back. Earth's fleet was not just surviving the test. It was overcoming it. Suddenly, the alien energy began to stabilize. The intense bursts of power that had been battering the fleet slowly began to subside. It was as if the force had been watching, waiting to see if Earth's resolve would falter. The alien voice returned, this time with a tone that seemed to carry a measure of respect. "You have shown your worth, Earth. You have proven that your resolve is unbreakable. But this is only the beginning. There are greater tests ahead." As the voice faded, the fleet, battered but not broken, sailed onward. Earth had faced its first true trial, and had emerged stronger. The crew was exhausted, but they knew one thing: they had passed a test unlike any other, and they had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. But as they moved deeper into the core, they also knew that the hardest challenges were yet to come. A new galactic order. The stars outside the command ship's viewport no longer felt like distant points of light. They were alive, glowing with a strange intensity that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the fleet's movements. Earth's ships had just survived a trial that had tested them in ways no one could have imagined, and now the galaxy seemed to be watching them. The question remained: what would they do with this newfound power? Could humanity rise to the challenge that lay ahead? Captain Marcus Hayes stood at the front of the command center, his eyes scanning the data streaming in from every ship in the fleet. The alien force that had tested them had finally receded, but its presence still lingered like a shadow hanging over the fleet. They were close, closer than ever, to the source of the signal. But the true test was no longer just about survival. It was about establishing a place for Earth in the grand, complex web of the galaxy. "We've passed every test so far, but the next one will define us," Hayes said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. He turned toward Lieutenant Yates. "What's the status on the fleet?" Yates, her face marked by exhaustion yet determined, looked up from her console. "The fleet is holding strong. We've adapted to the energy fields. Our systems are more advanced than they've ever been. It's like we've unlocked something new within our technology." "Good," Hayes replied. "We're not just here to survive anymore. We're here to take our place in this galaxy." The atmosphere in the command center shifted. There was no turning back now. Earth had faced the unknown, defeated the odds, and proven its strength. But the challenge that awaited them was no longer just about surviving. Earth was now at a crossroads. They had been tested by an ancient, powerful force, and now they had the choice to claim their place among the stars. As the fleet moved closer to the heart of the galactic core, the space around them began to shimmer. A strange distortion rippled through the void, like a portal opening in the fabric of the universe itself. The ships moved cautiously, every sensor on high alert. They had no idea what lay beyond the distortion, but they knew one thing. They were about to make contact with a force greater than any they had encountered before. The alien voice, the same one that had tested them, crackled through the fleet's communication system once more. This time, however, the tone was different. It was no longer just a voice. It felt like a presence, looming over them, judging them. "You have come far, Earth," the voice said, its resonance shaking the ship's hull. "You have proven your strength, your resilience, your resolve. But now you must face your final trial. It is time for you to decide your future." The crew listened in silence as the voice continued. "The galaxy has watched your every move. The Galactic Council, the old powers, all have been waiting to see how you would respond. The time has come for you to make your mark. Will you be another forgotten species, drifting in the shadows of others? Or will you stand and claim your place among the stars, shaping the future of the galaxy?" A profound silence filled the command center. The words hung heavy in the air. The crew knew that the test was not just about surviving anymore. It was about humanity's future. Would they remain isolated, unnoticed in the grand scheme of the galaxy? Or would they step forward and claim their destiny? Captain Hayes turned toward his crew, his gaze sharp and unwavering. "We've been underestimated for too long. It's time to show the galaxy who we are." The fleet began to accelerate, moving toward the portal that had opened before them. The strange energy fields that had surrounded them now seemed to part, guiding them into the unknown. The ships were no longer struggling to survive. They were moving with purpose, as if they were meant to be here. Earth was no longer the hidden backwater planet of the galaxy. It was standing on the precipice of a new era. As the fleet crossed the threshold into the unknown, something extraordinary happened. The alien energy that had once tested them now merged with Earth's fleet, fusing into their technology, making it stronger, more capable. The ships surged forward, faster and more powerful than ever before, each one glowing with a new, vibrant energy that seemed to pulse with life. The portal before them began to open wider, revealing a massive structure in the distance. It was unlike anything Earth's fleet had ever seen, a colossal space station, hovering in the center of the galaxy. It was ancient, far older than any civilization Earth had encountered, yet it was still alive with power. This was no ordinary station. It was the center of something far greater, a nexus where the fates of entire civilizations were decided. "We're entering their domain," Yates said, her voice full of awe. "This is where it all begins." Hayes nodded. The galaxy had watched Earth's every move, and now it was time for humanity to step forward. The station before them was the heart of the galaxy's power, and it was here that Earth would face its final trial. But this time, they wouldn't be the ones tested. They would be the ones making the decisions. As the fleet approached the station, a voice boomed across the communication channels, this time clearer and more direct. "Welcome, Earth. You have passed your tests. You have proven your strength, your ingenuity, and your unity. But now, the real challenge begins. Will you forge an alliance with the ancient powers of the galaxy? Will you stand with us, or will you choose to go it alone?" The question hung in the air. The choice was theirs to make. Earth had earned its place here, but the future of humanity was now in their hands. Captain Hayes looked at his crew, his face filled with determination. We will not be a passive player in this galaxy. Earth will shape its own destiny. And together, we will write a new chapter for humanity. The fleet moved forward, closer to the station. The stars around them seemed to part, making way for Earth's fleet. It was a moment of triumph, but it was also the beginning of something far greater. Earth was no longer the underdog. It had claimed its place in the galaxy. And now, humanity would determine its future, forging alliances, challenging the status quo, and reshaping the very fabric of the galaxy itself. Victory and the future. The colossal space station loomed ahead, its dark surface shimmering with ancient energy. The fleet of Earth's ships, glowing with newfound power, moved toward it like a unified force. They had passed every trial, overcome every obstacle, and now they were on the cusp of something far greater than anyone had ever imagined. For the first time in history, humanity was about to take its rightful place in the galaxy, not as a forgotten world on the outskirts, but as a respected power capable of shaping the future. As they drew closer to the station, Captain Marcus Hayes stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the structure grow larger with every passing moment. His mind was sharp, focused, but there was also a deep sense of awe. He could hardly believe how far they had come. The crew behind him, each one of them dedicated, resourceful, and brave, had stood by him through every challenge. They had all risked everything for this moment. "Prepare to make contact," Hayes ordered. His voice was steady, but the weight of the moment was not lost on him. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was the beginning of Earth's future in the galaxy. Lieutenant Yates stood beside him, her hands poised over the communication console. She glanced at him, then back at the ship's systems. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission." "It's coming from the station." Hayes nodded, his pulse quickening. The time had come. With a deep breath, he motioned for Yates to open the channel. The voice that crackled through the comms was no longer distant or ominous. It was different now. It was calm, authoritative, yet welcoming. "You have arrived, Earth. Your strength has been tested, your resolve proven. The trials were not just of power, they were of character. You have shown that humanity is not only capable of surviving in this galaxy, but that you are ready to take your place among the stars." The crew sat in stunned silence as the voice continued. The words were a confirmation of everything they had worked toward, everything they had fought for. Earth had earned the respect of the galaxy, and now they were being granted something even more valuable, the opportunity to shape their own destiny. "The time has come," the voice said. "Will you accept your place as a partner in the new order of the galaxy, or will you choose a different path?" Hayes exchanged a look with Yates. The question was simple, but the answer would echo across the galaxy. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about influence, alliances, and change. Earth had been on the edge for so long, but now they stood at the threshold of a new age. It was time to decide whether to join the ancient powers that had watched them, or to forge a new future, one that was entirely their own. The decision was more than just a political one. It was a moral choice. What kind of future did Earth want? Did they want to join the established powers, working within the galaxy's old systems, or did they want to build something new, a future where humanity's values, strength, unity, and independence shaped the galaxy itself? "We will build our own future," Captain Hayes said firmly, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Earth will stand on its own. We will forge our path, our alliances, and our destiny." There was a long pause. The crew waited, unsure if they had made the right choice. Would the ancient powers accept them, or would they be rejected for daring to choose a different path? And then the voice returned, this time with a tone of approval. "Very well, Earth. You have chosen the path of independence. You will face many challenges, but you will also be given the opportunity to shape the future of the galaxy. Your strength will be your ally, your resolve your guide. The galaxy is yours to influence, Earth, but remember, respect must be earned, and alliances are fragile. A surge of energy rippled through the fleet as the space station's systems activated. Massive gates slowly opened, revealing the vast chamber filled with shimmering, intricate structures. The ancient station was no longer just a relic of a forgotten time. It was now a hub for a new era. It was clear that this station had been waiting for Earth to arrive, to join the ranks of civilizations that had shaped the galaxy's past and now its future. As Earth's fleet entered the station's orbit, something incredible happened. The ships, powered by the strange energy that had once tested them, began to resonate with the station's energy. The fusion of Earth's technology and the ancient power created a brilliant burst of light that illuminated the stars around them. For the first time, humanity was no longer on the edge of the galaxy. They were in the heart of it, connected to something far greater than themselves. Captain Hayes stood tall, watching as the fleet settled into its new position in the galaxy. The crew was silent, each member reflecting on the enormity of the moment. They had fought for this, had risked everything to make Earth's future a reality. And now they were standing at the center of the galaxy, not as an outsider, but as a member of a new order, an order that Earth would help define. "We did it," Yates said softly, her voice filled with awe. "We didn't just survive," Hayes replied, a proud smile forming on his face. "We thrived. And now we're going to make sure the galaxy knows who we are." The fleet, now a symbol of humanity's strength, moved forward toward the station's core. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. Earth would form new alliances, face new challenges, and ultimately become a force that could not be ignored. The galaxy had watched Earth rise from nothing. And now, the galaxy would have to reckon with Earth's future, a future shaped by humanity's unbreakable resolve. As the fleet entered the station's heart, the crew stood united, knowing that this moment, this choice, was the turning point for humanity. The galaxy had been tested, and now, Earth would prove it was more than just a speck in the stars. It was a new era for humanity, a new order for the galaxy, and Earth would lead the way.